Hello, hello. Bl'Artagnan here with Rundown Remnants, the VV story chapter Lufenia. Got a team of Exdeath, Tidus, and Ignis here. Before we get into it, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. It'll really help support the channel. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on the fight. You know, just general algorithm shilling bullshit. The usual stuff. But I do actually enjoy hearing from you guys. I usually get a good laugh out of some of the comments I'm seeing. So what do we got going on here? This initial wave of Mistodons, a fun little Final Fantasy IX reference for those of you who played that game. It's kind of a warm-up. I'm not 100% sure why they're here, if we're being completely honest. But we don't want them to get that recast off. That recast, I assume, is going to hurt or something. So we're just going to go ahead and deal with that. I've been really enjoying using Tidus now that he's no longer Synergy. As a personal rule, I tend to avoid using Synergy characters if I can avoid it, just as a matter of kind of, personal expression, testing my limits, that kind of, malarkey. Of course, there are exceptions, especially when they're really handsome trees. I'm a big fan of trees, as you know, especially this tree. So this part of the fight, the Tiamat's, this is the real fight. The orb is kind of interesting. It's deal fire damage alongside dealing 150,000 damage in a single turn, which isn't too crazy, and that's what Ignis is here for. I know a lot of people are using Ignis Call to get a similar effect to get through the orb, because the orb is +4, which is pretty generous. There we go, hack and slash. Interestingly enough, you will see here, watch this. The orb ticks up. It counts, so Exdeath's HP damage alongside the fact that he is fire enchanted is apparently enough, so that's kind of nice. I was worried that they kind of were, boning him in his own cycle, but we're in a decent place there. So these guys are kind of interesting. They remind me of the Aranea event bosses in that if they don't act at all before you get them under 80%, then they frame their turns and gain a whole bunch of HP damage with resistance, and it just sucks. So you want to let them act at least once. That said, once you let them act once, you can just kind of go to town on them, and that's why Sephiroth Friend is here. Start going crazy. The mechanics of the fight, beyond that, like their recast puts a one-turn frame debuff on you that basically is just a HP poison based on, I think, the attack stat or something, I don't know. It can deal a lot of damage to you if you're not careful, though, even though it only lasts a turn. That's honestly not the worst part of the fight, though. The worst part of the fight is the fact that, on a very regular basis, they throw out Maelstrom, which is an AoE full dispel of the party. From what I was seeing, this isn't a very HP damage heavy fight. It just sucks losing all of your buffs every, 3 turns or something ridiculous. Especially for characters who rely on LD buffs. So, we're going to go ahead and... one boss turn, though, I guess we'll call it. I mean, it's Tidus doing Tidus things. I'm still kind of getting used to playing him and figuring out his rhythm and stuff, but I'm really enjoying him. He's a blast to use. And Sephiroth Friend is really kind of seeing a resurgence now as we're seeing these kind of zero boss turn style fights crop up. Viz, Zonde, and other fights. That BT effect of Sephiroth is really showing itself to be absolutely splendid. Granted, it's Tidus, so who knows, maybe it wasn't even necessary, because at this point, their turns are in the Shadow Realm. And looking at Ignis, I mean, he's providing the fire enchant, I guess, so that's kind of handy. Still wondering if I could have brought someone even better and used a call, but whatever. Maybe a recall something, who knows. They'll try to do something fancy, but for now, let's go ahead and... I mean, at this point, the fight is 64%, and the fight is already kind of over, which is a little silly to say, but that's the power of Sephiroth BT effect if you use it right. Really, the trick with this fight is you let them each take a turn. One hits you with the recast, you take a bunch of damage, you heal it off, it's okay. The other hits you with Poison Breath, which doesn't really do anything, and the other, then that's it. I think that the B uses Poison Breath as well after, but whatever. Anyway, Sephiroth's gone, but that's okay. we have an even better burst effect to use now. Womp. Because Exdeath is here. I'm so happy. Womp. As I've said several times now, I'm really excited that Exdeath can now be used on zero boss turn style teams. Vomp. Oh, I love this animation. It's so cool. Into the void. There we go. There we go. I'm gonna miss Exdeath being in synergy because I love seeing these big numbers. Look at this. We've used his AA and Waka base call to stack his attack to absurd levels. So we're now dealing 200k just from standing there taking an action every turn. So that's gonna go great. Refreshing his skill 1 buff. And of course, Tidus and Exdeath are a great pairing. They do have one more mechanic I should mention. They get a giant HP damage shield. It doesn't work like a Brave Shield, just those. You see those blue numbers, that's just absorbing HP damage. And it's actually pretty beefy. It's like 500,000 or something crazy. Interestingly, Exdeath's BT effect actually doesn't affect it. It just kind of happens, as you can see. But that is a little bit awkward because the orb won't be ticked up until we get rid of that shield. So we're going to have to go ahead and deal with that. And deal with it we shall. Eventually. Once you break the shield, they actually take increased Brave damage, and their defense lowers. They would if I hadn't stacked 8-frame debuffs on them. They get unframed debuffs that they self-apply that increase their Brave damage taken and stuff, which is interesting. I like that feeling of like, oh, I'm really tense, and then you punch the defense, and the defense actually crumbles and breaks, and like now they're weakened. That flavor, from a flavor perspective, I really enjoy that. Anywho, there we go. Shields down. Their turns are still in the shadow. Their turns actually were sent to the void, which weirdly enough Exdeath had nothing to do with. But I mean, that's a whole nother thing. At this point, I'm realizing I probably should press that summon button. Like, yeah, sure, I could be like, oh, it's a no summon run or something. But like, I already used a burst. I used a synergy character. Like, what am I bragging about here? What I'm bragging about is the fact that Exdeath BT is still the most awesome BT in the game. Fight me, I guess, or something. I don't know. Anywho. There we go. There's the fight. There we go. They're gone. This was fun. This was good. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking around to the end. People rarely do. You know what? If you did, let me know in the comments how your day went. I want to hear about it. In any case, I'll see you in the next video. Adios.